The usual man is forever in conflict, never satisfied. The usual man not only is in conflict, but dramatizes his or her conflict. Notice this. There's always conflict going on in your head. Do I do this? Do I do that? Working things out all the time. The usual man's life is always in conflict, which is therefore based on fear. Fear of the other. Fear of losing one's image. Fear of being interfered with. Fear of losing one's so-called life. Fear of not being secure. Fear of not being able to control. Fear of losing. Fear of being rejected. Fear of not being liked. Fear of getting ill. And of course, fear of dying, which is natural for the body to die. It's made to die. Right from birth, it's on the way to its death. So why are we all in conflict? Why aren't we living in harmony? And true harmony has nothing to do with manipulation, nothing to do with social morality and norms and P's and Q's and all that business. Yes, of course we have to abide by certain rules and regulations. For instance, driving on the correct side of the road. However, everyone is in conflict. The unenlightened person, which is the vast majority of the human race, alive and past, have lived in conflict. No one person is at peace. True peace is inherent. It's conflict. Why? Why? Well, it needs an enlightened person, a person who is awake, to reveal to everybody, if they wish to know, what it is that's creating this conflict, this ill at ease, this disturbance. You don't have to examine yourself for too long to see that you are disturbed, never satisfied. And much of the conflict is within oneself. There's very few people, very few mature adults. True maturity is being awake, being enlightened. There are very few. Who are at peace. And only when one is truly living this peace, beyond all knowledge, beyond all experience, it's a natural inherent peace. Only when these people come together will there be real cooperation and tolerance and compassion. So what is it that's creating this conflict? Well, we've all heard of the phrase, you are screwing yourself up. Well, that's exactly what everyone is doing. Not maybe in such a way that they're mentally tormenting themselves forevermore. But everyone is doing it to themselves. It's very easy to blame, it's ever so easy to think it's someone else doing it. Everyone thinks that they are being disturbed by the other, disturbed by the things of the world, disturbed by the weather. We don't need to live a life of conflict, of disturbance. We are truly, when realized, that we are already happiness. The disposition of the body-mind of every human being, the true disposition, is not a belief, it's a realization, it's an understanding that we are always already happy. We are always already at home. We are always already without conflict. What causes this conflict? Why are we all in loggerheads with one another? Why are we looking for things to satisfy us? No matter what it is, there's always something we're looking to satisfy ourselves with. Why all these indulgences? Why all these stimulations and entertainments? What is it about the unenlightened human being that requires all of this? It's a distraction from feeling the uncomfortability that we truly are doing to ourselves. And my teacher, Adidar Samraj, says it all very clearly in his teachings. His name is Adidar Samraj, talks about the self-contraction. Baba Free John, as he was known then. We need enlightened people, just as someone who wants to be a good pianist needs someone who is a good pianist to show them the way. We can see brilliant youngsters playing the piano, playing concertos when they're 9, 8, 9, whatever. They had to be shown the way. People who want to ski well, they need to have a ski instructor. All skills, all expertise, unless it's very natural to one, needs guidance. The human being needs to have a kick up the backside by the enlightened person. We all know if we indulge too much with sugar and fat and all that business, we know the consequences. We know the consequences of smoking. We know the consequences of many of these afflictions that we do to ourselves. But much of the time we ignore the advice of ourselves. We break our New Year resolutions almost immediately. Once one is awake, once one is living in that disposition of the open hand, the body-mind is inherently disciplined. So this self-contraction is the root cause, the root disease of why we are in conflict, why we are in dilemma. When I was a child, there were only 3 different flavour crisps. As far as I can remember, plain cheese and onion and salt and vinegar. So there wasn't a big choice. We didn't get into a great dilemma about choosing which packet of crisps we would prefer at any given time. But now you look on the shelves, you get a whole aisle of crisps, these kind of snacks. Dilemma. What should I have today? Dilemma. What would Cedric like me to buy him? Dilemma. I had those last week. What did I have last week? Oh, I can't remember. Oh, I had these this week. Dilemma. So in this book, The Dreaded Gomboo, Adidar talks about the self-contraction. And that's what he calls, is his humorous name, the dreaded condition, the dreaded Gomboo. So the self-contraction is basically, this activity is not necessary for a start, but it is the true meaning of the word sin. The open hand disposition is our true condition with a capital C, which is God. God is happiness. Real God, that is, not the imaginary God, the false God, the Santa Claus God. That's based on belief, that's not based on actuality, reality. It's a belief that someone's going to be up there taking care of you when you die and taking care of you right now. It's a childish belief. It's not necessary. So he calls it, but that's basic. He calls this self-contraction, the Dreaded Gomboo, as a humorous name, but it's what we are doing is dwelling on ourselves so much. And he uses the myth of Narcissus. We are very narcissistic, extremely narcissistic. There's so much writing here about this imaginary disease. I have put the link to the Dreaded Gomboo in the description, so if you wish to read more about it, then I suggest you do. We need re-educating. The education that we have had keeps us in place. It keeps us from being inquisitive. It keeps us under control. It gives us an armour. It gives us a scaffolding. Only true happiness purifies us from this disease and all the consequences that come from it, this self-contraction. I, for one, as a very young child, recognized that I did not like myself. I prayed at night, Lord God, the conventional God, please make me a better person. I want to be more like Jesus. And when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I prayed to God this other prayer. God, I don't want anything to hold me up other than you. I don't want any scaffolding. So I was on my way very early on the path of enlightenment. Enlightenment is no seeking. As long as you're seeking, you will never be there. It all comes from this contraction, so stop doing the contraction. How do we stop doing the contraction? by redirecting our attention from off ourselves, basically to fall in love. Just basically to fall in love. To fall in love means we're falling out of love of this nonsense. And once you're in love, then your body and mind will be disciplined, and you'll take on new actions. Everyone is looking to be cured of the dreaded gomboo when we're actually doing it to ourselves. It's imaginary. Do you really think that the waves on the water, on the ocean, are real? They look real, possibly. They're not real. A wave is just the water being disturbed. You can never hold on to a wave. And that's what everyone's trying to do. Everyone's trying to hold on to their dreaded gomboo. And then eventually we die, so what's the point? Do you want to be happy with me? Would you like to be rested? People are disturbed by the so-called other. There's an Indian saying, as long as there's an other, there's fear. How can there be no others? How can there be no things or objects? It's the disposition. Do you think the concert pianist is self-conscious? Of course not. There's people around him, maybe thousands around him. He's not conscious of them in the sense that it's disturbing him. Or her. All these new neuroses that everyone has. Everyone's self-conscious. If you don't feel that self-conscious, if you say you aren't, it's because you're not feeling it. Feel this self-contraction. Feel it as an activity that you're doing. Everyone wants, it says here, if you want to get religious in our time, you must first decide that you have the dreaded gomboo. See, that's why do people go to church? Because they want their sins to be forgiven. Who's told them that they've got sins? So they think they go to church and eat a wafer and drink a bit of wine, that their sins have now been cured. Bullshit. You've still got your patterns and tendencies. Your patterns are full of unlove. Makes you feel better to go to church, to say a few prayers, to say a few words. Anyway, people think they've got to go somewhere to be cured. It says here, you think you've got to go to Dr. Pope, or Dr. Church, or Dr. Jesus, or Dr. Mahatma, Dr. Mahatma Boo, Dr. Gomboo Ananda. As soon as you get the feeling that you have this disease, you start looking for answers, be them religious or not. Ask most of the people around here how they got involved with this way of life. And they will describe some symptom or other of the dreaded gomboo, likes of me. I got involved in the way of happiness. Being in conflict is part of the way of unhappiness. Real happiness is ecstatic, it's joyful, it's natural to be already happy. which embraces everything. It's a happiness with a capital H. It's not a gleeful happiness. It's the happiness where the child just sits there and plays in the mud or in the sand without a sense of dilemma, without an ounce of dilemma, When a child comes up to mum with all his muddy hands and muddy feet and knees and loves the mother, and the mother continues to embrace the child, no matter how much mud that's been brought into the kitchen. The child is already happy. It's its disposition. We're taught we cannot be happy unless we've got a reason to be happy. The happiness I talk about here is unreasonable happiness, without reason. From an early age, we seem to believe that we are happy. We're made to believe that we are happy because we've received something. We've got something. We've had something done to us. You've been given a tick, been given a gold star, been given a chocolate bar, an ice cream. Now you're happy. It's a true state of awakening. Do you really want to continue in this fashion? That's been the practice and the habit for centuries. The unenlightened person is greedy. The unenlightened person only wants to be satisfied. The unenlightened person is extremely selfish. It's inevitable. But from the enlightened person, yes, one has to be responsible and take responsibilities for oneself, but there's no blame. There's no fear. It's not fear-based. It's based on discernment, on discrimination, of intelligence. It's not sheep following sheep. Jesus calls it the second birth stuff. Being awake, you feel this energy, this spirit, this love, this God living you. You think you are your body, mind? No, that's not what you are. It's just flesh and bones. Did you grow your hair? Do you grow your eyelashes? Do you grow your skin? Do you change the cells? Are you pumping your heart around now? The blood around your heart? Are you breathing? What we are is consciousness with a capital C. The universal consciousness. What we are is attention. You are attention. Put your attention anywhere. Attention dictates your destiny. Your destiny is created by where you put your attention. So why not put your attention on that which I call God, real happiness, joy, delight. It's ugly to live like this. Me. Against you. No, honestly, I mean, this book, The Dreaded Gomboo, is a must for anyone who's truly interested in a lifestyle of utter love, bliss, and happiness. To be transformed is a graceful happiness This is not manufactured, for this already is. It already is the case. You cannot manufacture the open hand disposition. This man-made, self-possessed nonsense is ruination. I think just because there's all these ugly wars going on around the world, that you aren't capable. Yes, you are. You're at war with me. Me is always at war with a you, no matter how subtle. You want your way. If you're sitting on a chair and you go off to the bathroom and then you come back and someone else is sitting on that chair, how do you feel? It was your chair previous to going to the bathroom. Now it's someone else's chair. Or self-contraction, these egoic feelings, these possessive feelings. Let's stop living in fear, but you can't stop living in fear. You just cannot. You cannot stop doing the self-contraction, no matter how hard you try, because the self-contraction is the very activity that's happening in order to try and stop the self-contraction. How is this? It opens, it blossoms. It's like the flower, it cannot water itself. The flower just cannot water itself. No matter how much it thinks it needs water, the plant cannot water itself. And the plant cannot grow itself. The plant doesn't grow itself. It's an attraction. The sun grows it. The water grows it. But with us, we've got a soul that continues from lifetime to lifetime. And that soul is this disposition of the heart. The body needs water, it needs food, of course, but it doesn't need to indulge. It doesn't need all what you possibly think it needs. The more you live like this, the happier you are, and therefore you become more of a renunciate. You should become like children, as it says in the Bible, not childish, but like being that disposition. The child should be carefree. The child doesn't have the problems as adults choose to have. The child is totally dependent upon the mother and father. We're talking about toddlers, young children, until they become rebellious as teenagers in their adolescent years. Your beliefs do not change anything. They do not change an iota. It's all an illusion. You think that you are being made happy by the new car, the new dress, the new shoes. Your true state, your true disposition bleeds through from time to time. So yes, I promote this book, The Dreaded Gomboo. I'll put the description, the link. Thank you for listening.